deep in the heart of Central Texas. It's the Best of the Outdoors podcast. Brought to you by Texas Fish and Game Magazine, the voice of the Texas outdoor nation. I am your humble host, Dustin Vaughn Warnke, the outdoor success guy, back with another podcast for you. Having a lot of fun. Almost said video just now because I've been doing a lot of videos on my YouTube channel. Having a lot of fun with this, man. Happy New Year to all of you guys. This one's releasing right after the New Year, so if you're listening to it later, then Happy New Year, belated New Year, I guess I should say. But wanted to also wish everybody a happy belated Merry Christmas. Before that, I've not had a new show out in the last about 3 weeks. I'm about a week behind right now, but it's because we took a little bit of a break in the Texas Outdoor Nation world for Christmas and New Year's, and just kind of relaxing there a little bit with family, spending some time in the outdoors and that kind of stuff. So I hope you will forgive me that I've been out of whack for the last 3 weeks, and we normally do these shows every 2 weeks. So I just took a week-long break. I hope that's okay with all of you listeners out there. I really appreciate you guys watching, reading, and listening to all of our stuff here at Texas Fish and Game. This show is a Texas-based show, but we are all over the world and all over the nation with content. And we kind of, first of all, named the website Texas Fish and Game, fishgame.com, the national news of Texas, but the more of it is just the outdoor nation. I mean, the news of the outdoor nation is what we're calling it now. And, it's so much. Texas has such a diversified, platform in it, but I mean, there's just so much outside of Texas that's happening and going on, and we try to give kind of some national coverage and some local coverage and things that people are going to find interesting about wildlife and that kind of stuff. Chester Moore does a great job curating all of our website content and that kind of stuff, and I mean, it's just been a fantastic part of my life to work with that man and all the other writers here at Texas Fish and Game. So thank you guys again so much for watching, reading, listening, reading the magazine, whatever the case may be, whatever you do. I really appreciate you all, and I want to thank especially the guys from the Confluence Writers event who put on the event that we had. Brad Downey and Dennis Bro, especially from Frontier Sales and Marketing. They put on an event for us in November of 2018, a couple of months ago now, and right before Thanksgiving week, and really did a good job of showcasing a bunch of their companies, that their manufacturer reps. So they basically bring a lot of companies together to us writers that we can write about, and content that we can cover and that kind of stuff, and just did a fantastic job. So I want to give a big shout out to them. I know they're listening. So and in this podcast, this is going to be kind of another fishing mashup like our podcast before last was. It's going to be Ryan Jones talking about kayaks, paddle sports, SUPs, all the things that we do in the personal watercraft family. And then I've got Dave Brown from Okuma to talk a little bit about fishing, a little short segment that him and I did just to kind of fill out this episode. And you got about an hour of content here, and I think you're going to find this interesting. I think you're going to find this fun-filled and educational, and all the things that I try to do with this podcast. Man, I don't do this show for me, guys. I do this show for you. And I want you guys to know that. I mean, I really walk around thinking about this stuff all the time, what I'm going to do next on the podcast. Chester and I have already planned out an editorial calendar for this year, for 2019. And, the more I do this, I'd love to hear back from you guys. I love all of you guys for finding me on Facebook. WARNCKE, Dustin, my first name. Just finding me on Facebook and telling me you like the show and you listen, man. That means the world to me. That is my oxygen. Your comments and your feedback is my oxygen on this show. So really appreciate you guys. Before we get started with all this fun stuff today, I want to mention the sponsor of this particular podcast, which is AccuSharp. AccuSharp had sponsored November and December, but since I didn't have a third show in December, I'm doing them for the first podcast of January because it's their turn. So one more, and then we resume back with them in March and April, and we'll do some more podcast sponsorship spots with them. But when was the last time you sharpened your knives, man? Sharpening your blade with an AccuSharp is actually very easy. The AccuSharp is a double-beveled knife sharpener pre-angled to your blade. All you need to do is run your AccuSharp through your blade to get it back to sharp. That's it. These can be found at Academy Sports and Outdoors stores or your local hardware store in most cases, or check them out at AccuSharp.com to find a list of stores in your area that carries AccuSharp, or you can purchase one online at many fine online retailers. Check out AccuSharp. Man, I tell this story a lot on this podcast, and if this is your first time hearing it, that's great. If it's not, that's fine, but still have the original AccuSharp blue and white knife sharpener my dad gave me for Christmas many years ago, and it still works, man. It's a little beat up. It's a little bit scratched and stuff because I've used it so much, but man, the thing is just tough as nails, and it lasts for a while, and it lasts for years, and it also keeps your edge in the field, man. Keeps your stuff going strong, and performing well for you in the outdoors. I've got to say, man, one of the things that and I know this is a fishing show, please forgive me, when I'm skinning hogs, man, there's nothing that will dull a knife quicker than skinning a hog. Or getting through the bones of a big redfish or anything like that. AccuSharp helps you keep your edge, helps you keep the performance of your knife up to speed. And I was just recently skinning a deer at when I was recording some segments, and just running that AccuSharp through that sharpener, through the knife real quick, just putting that edge, kind of finishing that edge on it again real quick, really made all the difference in that skinning job. So really for kind of keeping your edge in the field and doing what you do best out there, check out AccuSharp knife sharpeners. That's AccuSharp.com. AccuSharp.com for AccuSharp knife sharpeners. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring the show. And here's our first interview with Mr. Ryan Jones from Frontier Sales and Marketing, talking about paddle sports, kayaks, personal watercraft, all kinds of stuff like that. Here we go. So joining me on the podcast, I have Ryan, and tell us your full name, Ryan.
Ryan Jones.
Ryan Jones. Well, that's easy to remember.
Nice and simple.
Easy to spell. It's spelled the regular way Ryan is spelled, right?
Yes, it is. R-Y-A-N.
Okay, I was just wondering. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background. You're with Frontier Sales and Marketing, who put on this event that we're at. And basically, you're their kayak guy, right?
Yep. Yeah, I am the kayak guru, kayaks, paddleboards, fishing. I've spent quite a few years on the retail side of the paddle sports business, which I landed just from personal desire and passion,
Sure.
being out and enjoying the sport back before they had the product that made it as enjoyable as it is today. And I've just fallen in love with it. I grew up in the middle of Oklahoma City, and my mom always tells people I spent more time living in our backyard than I ever did the house. So it was just kind of natural for me to kind of fall in this place, just have a love and a passion for the outdoors and the peace and the tranquility it brings. So being able to do it, and coming from a blue-collar family, didn't have a lot of income, spent most of my time shore fishing growing up as a kid.
Right.
And got put into Boy Scouts, and that's kind of actually what got me started. I grew up in canoes all the time, fishing, and then turned into kayaks, and now it's kayaks and paddleboards.
Yeah.
And so basically been doing this most of my life.
Oh, that's cool. How old a man are you?
I'm 36.
Oh, cool. We're not that far away then. I'm 39. So,
Nice.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't realize that. One of the things I talked about before we started recording was that kayaks, paddleboards, SUPs, whatever you want to call them, personal watercraft like this, and then even the micro skiffs, are basically making the outdoors more affordable and making the water more accessible to people. And the other benefit that I see is that you're able to get back in tighter areas that you can't get with a big boat.
Correct. It definitely takes us to a new place. A lot of times people think of fishing, you think of a bass boat. And when I was younger, they're a lot more affordable. Nowadays, these boats and the motors alone cost more than a pickup truck.
Yeah, or a car or anything.
And
yeah,
so
exactly.
Being able to get through and have an efficient kayak that is appealing to the fishermen, that there's a market. I mean, you can get a kayak anywhere from $200 to $6,000-$7,000, and there's models all the way through that range. So no matter what your budget is, you're able to get out there on the water in some capacity and get further than your shore fishermen or your tube fishermen. And nowadays, with all the accessories and options and even the motors they have on them, now you have a craft that goes everywhere a boat can go and everywhere a boat can't go.
Right.
So it really opens the doors, especially since Google Earth came out.
Sure.
You're able to pull your phone out and see these bodies of water you never knew were there, and go and explore them. And a kayak, in my opinion, is one of the most efficient, effective, and affordable ways to do that.
It's funny. One of the places I shore fish a lot is Divine Lake Park, which is a little bitty hole-in-the-wall park that has a small lake on it in Leander, where I live. And the funny thing about it is it's such a windy lake. It's flat, and so there's a lot of wind that just goes through there or whatever. I see the kayakers get on there, and they're all gung-ho, whatever. That wind just beats them up, and they're like, oh, screw this, and they get off of the water. But there are things in the industry now that you've shown us this weekend, or this whole week, that can help fight the wind, fight the drag, fight all the elements and stuff, such as like the micro skiff, or I guess I call it the micro skiff. Am I saying that right? Like the rover, like the boat rover.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of a brand new category that isn't completely defined yet. And it's a completely new place that a lot of this paddlecraft are going to go to for states that have larger bodies of water. Coming from spending the last 3 years in Florida, I would have thought nothing about a little micro one-person skiff before then, but you get down there. If you're somebody that just loves spending all the time on the water, every time you get out, you're like, man, I wish I could have covered that much more ground.
Sure.
And just allows you to have more accessories, the ability to cover more ground, and these little guys are able to put a little outboard motor on there. You can put a little trolling motor on there.
Right.
The ability to take a trolling motor and now put a lithium battery on it,
which will last a lot longer, right?
Lasts longer. The biggest thing's the weight. So going from a deep cycle battery that weighs 50, 60, 70, 80 pounds, you're going to a battery that has the same capacity but weighs a quarter the weight.
I have to say, yeah, I've seen them at ICAST shows.
You pay the price for them, but they're a lot easier to maintenance, and the weight, you can have that weight in a lot of these kayaks because they have 400, 500, 600 pound capacities.
Yep.
But then it throws your balance off, and you're not set right in the kayak, and your bow is either super heavy or the back end's really heavy, and you kind of a balancing game. So, but with these little skiffs, the paddleboards, the kayaks, you've got trolling motor companies like Minn Kota that people put on there and they rig themselves. There's some guys in Texas that build mounts for kayaks specifically for working with Minn Kota. Then you have larger companies such as Torqeedo. It's a German company. They're really the first to come out with a kayak small paddlecraft motor. They've been around for quite a few years. You pay quite a pretty penny for them, but they're extremely efficient. They've been around for a long time. They've got the technology. And as of a little over a year ago now, you've got a company out of California called Bixby. And they have a little bitty super lightweight jet propulsion, and they've got a motor you can actually take and change the mounts to go on a paddleboard, to go on a kayak, or to use handheld and actually go diving or swimming or something like that.
Hold on, when you're saying jet engine, you're talking about it's going to shoot a rooster tail?
It's little bitty jet propulsion. This thing weighs less than 10 pounds. It's just got a little cone right there. The blade on it, literally the circumference is
real small.
Just a few inches, and it will propel a kayak and get you going. You're not going fast, but you're doing 2, 3, 4, up to 5 miles an hour, which in a small paddlecraft is faster than paddling.
But will it leave a rooster tail behind you?
No,
darn. You just say jet propulsion, and I'm just like, let's do this, baby. Because, and the reason I bring that up, I bow fish a lot. I bow fish as much as I can. My bow fishing guy, Marty McIntyre, I bring him up for a couple of reasons. He's great. Garquest.com is his website. He owned a jet boat, like a standard, I think it was a 24-footer, conventional boat, and it had a bow fishing deck and everything on it. The thing had a jet engine on it, a jet propulsion on it, an impeller and all that stuff. And so he literally spit a rooster tail out the back of the boat, and I was just thinking, man, that would be really cool in a kayak. But the other thing is that he is really big about rivers and lakes and kayaks and canoes, and he had, one of the kayak companies out there, NU Canoe. He would rig a trolling motor on the back of one of those, and trolling motor on all kinds of different crafts that he could get, just to hit the river rivers and the lakes to go bow fishing.
Yep.
And he liked to stand and shoot, which is common. So, I mean, and I want to mention one of our listeners, Orlando. I know he listens a lot. Big shout out to you. He's one of the people that inspires me to keep on going with kayaking because it's better for guys. It's better for everybody because it's accessibility to everybody, which I've always been about on this podcast. But I mean, that all being said, it's about approaching the water in a new way. And as you said perfectly last night during your presentation, an intimate way to approach fishing.
It really is. The few times I've spent my life being on a boat, the only way I know how to describe it is, like I said last night, it's the conqueror versus the conquered.
Yes, that's a good way to say it.
Even when you're fishing offshore for pelagics and stuff, you get a big fish on, the boat goes in reverse and starts chasing it down.
Yeah.
And in a kayak, it really evens the playing ground out.
Sure.
There's a different perspective and a different thought process, how you fight, keeping your rod bent, all those things. There's so many different factors in there you really have to encounter and figure out that it just really makes it very dynamic way. And it's a great experience, and you're out there. There are so many things I see being in a kayak, looking around, whether it's sea turtles out in the middle of the ocean. I've had sailfish jump 10 foot away from me.
Oh my goodness.
One of the most amazing experiences, I saw him out in a kayak 300 foot deep offshore off of Dania Beach in Florida, and I look over and there is a single shrimp. And he is being chased by a blackfin tuna. And literally
run, Forrest,
for
run,
like 20 minutes, I watched this epic battle out in the middle of nowhere in my kayak, and the shrimp won.
The shrimp won. The little guy wins. I love it, man. Oh my god!
But you go through, like we were talking about hunting. I take my crossbow out on my paddleboard, and I've done bow fishing, and using paddlecraft to get out to hunt and to fish, especially when you're out on public land and stuff like that, comes in really handy because you have access to get places most of your other hunters are going to be. For one, it's safer. A lot of these animals know those places very well. We just don't know that. But then also, the paddlecraft just doesn't scare them. I had a time right dab in the middle of Oklahoma City. We have the Canadian River. And was just out there for a nice paddle one day. Had a big, long 14-foot kayak. My dog's behind me. We're paddling. I see a doe on the shore. And I'm like, start paddling over. My dog sees the doe. She's not one to chase it. She just sat there and watched it. We paddled right up. I banked that kayak. Sat there for 5 minutes talking to the doe. She never got up.
Wow, well, that's a story now.
Yeah, and then I was able to back up and just keep on. She never moved. It just it just doesn't scare them away. I mean, eagles. I've gotten right under some beautiful bald eagles and osprey and. And then talking about fish, I mean, you can sneak up on some fish. I had one time I fished this little pond, and it had just flooded, and a lot of the water was up in the grass, and I saw these two good-sized catfish, 15, 20 pounds apiece, together, and I have one of my units I use is a catamaran-style paddleboard, and I actually got both the pontoons of the catamaran on top of the fish before they knew I was there. And then I have these two fish. They don't know how to go backwards. They can't go forwards. And they're just rocking, hitting the bottom of my kayak. And I just got a huge laugh out of it. It was fun. So the perspective and, you kind of feel like you're a lot more equal and one-on-one with nature in general, which I just have a great appreciation for.
Yeah, and not to get too deep, but I mean, that's kind of the whole primal nature of why a lot of times we hunt and fish. It's just to get out there and enjoy God's creation and enjoy that communion with nature. And I think a kayak allows you to do that a lot more intimately than a lot of other things. The thing, like, I started out with kayaks, 15 years ago, and I'd rent some from Town Lake, which is down in Austin where I used to live, and my back would hurt so bad, or my knees would hurt so bad getting in and out of it. And the innovations that have happened, especially with the bona fide kayaks that you represented here, have just changed all that.
Absolutely. Seat comfort, like I was talking to you guys last night, for me going out on a kayak trip, what makes or breaks a trip for me are seat comfort and paddle. Your paddle is your motor.
Right.
You want a high performance motor to be more efficient the whole time you're out there.
Yes.
But even more so when it comes to introducing the sport to a larger audience, and also your veterans, your retired groups.
Yes.
We have a very large population over the age of 55. And a lot of them have knee issues. A lot of them have back issues,
sure.
Slip disc, all kinds of stuff. But they still want to get out on the water. And, you take a bass boat or something out, that jars you. I mean, you really get out there going, and you hit some choppy water.
That's a good point. I never really thought of it like that, but you're right. You hit some choppy water, and it is a rough ride.
Yeah, and you just, it's not really comfortable. I've had a few bass boat trips I come back from, and I'm sore from it. And when I first got into kayaks, the kayaks I used, I was not comfortable in whatsoever. I actually had one of my first ones I started using was a 2-person sit-inside kayak. It was by Dagger called the Bayou 2. I hated the seats so much. The Igloo coolers had just came out with the Cube. And I could get that perfectly squared little cooler inside the cockpit of my kayak.
Yeah.
So that became my seat.
So you have something to sit on. Okay, that makes sense.
So I was able to sit up high. I was able to keep my back stretched out. I wasn't tucked down into the kayak. My legs weren't crunched up. I was able to keep my knees bent, and I just really enjoyed it a lot more. Shortly after that, the kayaks for fishing started to evolve, and they created kind of the lawn chair style seat for the kayaks. And that's really that's really what's turned a lot of the sport on to such a larger population now, because most people think of kayaks, they think of sit-insides, they think of like whitewater kayaks and these little bitty seats and in these little bitty kayaks. And when you get out there and you find out you're in a 11, 12, 13, 14 foot kayak, you have this really nice comfortable chair that has the option for a low and a high seat because it's so stable. You're able to keep your knees bent the whole time. You have really good solid lumbar support, full adjustability with the seat. It gives you a lot more options. And when I first started kayak fishing, a lot of times I go out, my trips lasted 30 minutes to 2 hours. Now when I go out, most of my trips when I go out dedicated, I'm out on the water for 8 to 12 hours a day in a kayak or on my paddleboard.
That's amazing.
So comfort is really what allows me to do that and enjoy it.
Yes.
I enjoyed it from the perspective of I'm just a water rat. I have gills. I always tell people I have gills right behind my ears. I get really grumpy and cranky if I don't get those wet on a regular basis. Yeah. But being able to get out and, I would trudge through these older seats, and after 2-3 hours, I'd be uncomfortable for the next 4 hours. But I would just push through it because I wanted to be out there on the water. But now it's not that case. You do have a very comfortable seat that allows people, and me coming from, I've been in the retail side of paddle sports for the last 6 years. And we have anglers that are in their 80s and, they're out there still kayaking and fishing and doing what they love. And it's great because they have so much wealth of knowledge. And you get them out there on the water and just soak it in and listen to them and stuff. And, you kind of bring back their youth at the same time by being able to get out there and utilize a kayak to do that.
Well, and I said this on the previous recording that we did here at this show, is that this event, the thing that is amazing to me is the fact that there's constantly all kinds of innovations that are happening to the business, that are happening to the industry, that are happening to the products. Like Yak Attack here, which you talked about yesterday. They've thought of like everything, man. They 3D print prototypes and they come up with the amount that produce it, and then they sell at a reasonable price. Bonafide kayaks, which you can talk about that for a minute, but basically they made a kayak that's very stable. I saw you fishing it yesterday, and it was choppy water. It was less than ideal conditions. It was overcast. I mean, you had a couple of mishaps on the water, but you were grinding it out, man. You were showing it in real life. This is it in action.
Absolutely. The products, they've gotten crazy the last few years. It's so much fun. I've actually branded myself over the last year or so as the kayak doctor. I do.
I love it. That's great.
You
didn't tell us that earlier. The kayak doctor. I'll start calling you that.
Yeah. So
Dr. Ryan.
Dr. Jones, the kayak doctor.
Dr. Jones. Yeah.
But I do. I kind of got that from starting doing repairs and stuff on kayaks. But I do a lot of high-end customization, and the ability to add. Used to. You had a kayak, you spend a couple $100, you got a paddle, you got a life jacket, you go out there. Now as the sport's getting a lot more competitive, now you've got electronics. Any fish finder you can put on a boat, you can now put on a kayak. Thanks to the lithium batteries, we have small power sources that can power a lot of equipment all at once.
Right.
In the larger companies such as PowerPole, they've recognized this, and so they created the micro anchor multiple years ago.
Which you used this trip.
Yeah, I had to. I mean, without some kind of pole or something when I was out there, that would have made it a lot harder because as soon as you find a hole, we found a really hot spot yesterday in that hole, and without the products and the accessories like that, a lot of times I use Yak Attack makes a stakeout pole, which I've used for years before Power Pole came out with anything.
What is their pole called again? Power Pole's pole?
The Power Pole is called the Micro Anchor.
The Micro Anchor. Okay, that's cool.
So electronic.
But no, the pole itself.
The pole, they just call it a stakeout pole.
A stakeout pole. Okay, that's right. That's right. I want to plug Powerball because they're one of our sponsors of the magazine. Got to take care of them. So
yeah, they have they call push poles stakeout poles.
Okay, cool.
And they've really come in making sure they listen to the kayak anglers and creating. They just actually improved their pole this year for anglers at ICAST, and so they keep getting better, making our lives a lot easier and getting out there because. When it comes to that type of stuff, like yesterday, we had current pushing me. I had the wind definitely pushing me. You find a hole, and as soon as you get settled in there and go to fish, you're out of that hole.
Right.
So having products like that to be able to get you in there, electronics to find, sometimes those holes are there. Or now that it's there, you can mark it on your GPS and come back to and fish. So even fish finders are awesome. I've gone through multiple bodies of water. I grew up as a kid fishing, and I used to fish these little community tournaments. And I was always curious why the areas I fished were ideal for fishing for certain species.
Right.
And throwing a kayak real quick on that with my fish finder, I could see a ledge or I could see structure or something like that. And I'm like, okay, I knew there's always good fishing there, but I don't know why. Now that I'm older, I care about that stuff, and now I can actually go out there, and so that improves the quality of your fishing time out on the water, being a lot more productive.
Productive, yeah. Covering more water,
yeah,
too.
You're covering more water, you're fishing more grounds, and you're not fishing blind.
Right.
So, and you have all these companies, Bonafide and Yak Attack, both of those companies are owned by the same individual, extremely innovative in the field, and he is constantly creating new products, and then he takes a kayak and he makes the kayak very easy to equip with all the accessories.
Yes.
So you may have an angler that just wants to go out and paddle, take his kid out and play around in a body of water he's known forever, but then his buddy's like, hey, let's go on this trip. Well, now you can go, you got fish finder, power poles, you've got paddle holders, rod holders. I mean, a lot of us, I started out fishing with 1 to 2 fishing rods. Now, on average, if I'm bass fishing, I take 6 to 8 rods.
Good. On a kayak?
On a kayak.
Wow. I didn't even think that was possible. I was thinking you were, 3 max, 2 in your rocket launchers in the back, if that's even the right word to call it in kayak world.
Yeah, it's one of the names.
Okay, cool. Rocket launcher. And then maybe one on your rod holder in the actual kayak. Where do you put 6 rods, man?
They've got rod holders. I use a product called the Black Pack by Yak Attack. Uh-huh. It's a little bit larger than Milk Crate, and they make it where you can put individual rod holders, and they already have the holes pre-drilled, and you can, I think the case has room for like 9 rod holders.
That's
if you
fascinating.
want. So
9 rod holders?
Yeah. And we use them when you're out there fishing tournaments and stuff.
Yeah, it counts.
I spend my time the night before now rigging all my rods for what I'm expecting, the conditions, whether it's fall or spring.
Sure, just like you're rigging a big bass boat or anything else.
Because otherwise in the kayak, when I had 1 or 2 rods, if I had a bad fishing day and I couldn't figure out what they were biting, you look down by my foot in the base of the kayak and there's 12, 15 different baits there. And when you add the amount of time you spend rigging that while you're on the water, that's time you could have been fishing.
Right.
And it keeps getting crazier and crazier with that stuff, and the companies are accommodating it. They're coming out with these products to allow you to do it and to do it with ease and with comfort, and they're very innovative with anchor trolleys to be able to drop and position your kayak exactly to the shore structure, whatever you want, against the wind, the power poles, cooler companies are out there. They're making fish bags for kayaks now.
That's what I was going to ask you next, and I wanted to get into inflatable paddle boards too, but I wanted to ask you how you keep fish when you're fishing a tournament, when it counts the most. How do you keep them alive, or how do you keep them,
For your freshwater tournaments and bass fishing,
that's what I mean.
We use a completely different system than your traditional bass tournaments. We use a measuring system.
Okay, cool.
So
it's catch and release, in other words.
It's
right?
catch and,
Okay, cool.
we call it CPR, catch, photo, release.
Okay, cool.
That is the standard in
This
the
is
kayak
enlightening
fishing
me, because
tournament
I had
world.
no idea, yeah.
Yeah, so what's really nice with those, like I said, anytime you think of like kayakers, paddleboarders, fishing, we're very environmentally friendly.
Sure.
We're very green, pick up trash around you, care about that stuff. We don't leave a mark where we've been at. And that goes along with our fishing populations as well.
Yep.
To be able to grab a fish, put it on a board, take a picture. There's some great apps that a lot of these tournaments use. TourneyX is one of the main ones nationally that is used. And you go on, you open up this app, you take a picture, it registers, and then you're able to go through and immediately release that fish within less than a minute or so, and it's back. It's in the same location it came from, and it has a lot higher chance of being able to thrive and live.
Right.
So your saltwater is different. They use fish bags. I come from Florida, and we have the Extreme Kayak Fishing Tournament series there. I started by fishing a sailfish tournament there, and that's a numbers game. You catch it, you get upside of the boat, help boat comes in, verifies the catch, then you immediately release it. So they're very safe, very protected. Wow. And then you have your meat tournaments during the summertime, and that's when things kind of get pretty crazy.
Well, I was going to ask you how that works. Yeah.
I mean, we have some companies out there that are making fish bags that are shaped to be able to put up on the bow or the stern of the kayak on the front of the back to kind of balance it out. But you're pulling in 30, 40-pound kingfish. There's over a 70-pound wahoo caught last year at the tournament.
On a kayak?
On a kayak.
Gee whiz.
You've got tuna, grouper, all kinds of stuff out there, and we're bringing it all in. They fit it inside the kayak, on top of the kayak. So then you have to have an efficient, stable kayak to be able to get all of that weight in, fight the surf, the wind, all that kind of stuff. It's very challenging.
That sounds amazing, though.
Oh, it's epic.
Yeah, sure.
It brings people from around the world who have a different perspective than going out on a 40, 60-foot sport fisher, and going out and catching it, and you have all the room in the world. You really have to think a lot of things through. Like, we changed the type of gabs we use, different things like that, nets. We've adapted a lot of the accessories in the fishing world to accommodate kayaks. Yak Attack, speaking of fishing nets, they make this leverage landing net that actually, since you're in a kayak, you may have a rod in this one hand, you can't stand up, get down on your knees and get yourself positioned. So they actually have an extension that goes underneath your forearm as a brace, so you can get that leverage, get it up and get it into the boat.
That's a good idea.
I went and fished a bass boat tournament in Missouri a little over a month ago at Lake of the Ozarks, and I decided to take it with me, and I'm like, man, the bass boat guides could actually utilize this. If they're out there, they don't have a partner with them, and they're out there by themselves. I mean, product like that, like, we're so innovative in our sport to make things easier and better for the consumer that, it's almost getting better products than even like, the general boat population has.
Wow. And I was just kind of thinking, if you're going deer hunting with a crossbow, you gotta get your crossbow, and then do you just haul the deer on top of your kayak when you're done, like you'd strap it to a hood in Michigan or
Absolutely.
something?
That makes great pictures. Absolutely.
Everybody, you're all, paddling by, and everybody's like, what the heck is that guy doing, man? He just harvested a deer, and it's, heads in the water, and it's laying over the top of his kayak. I don't know. This is really, I wrote an article back in March of 2017 called Kayaks for Kids, and it was all about getting kids starting in kayaking. And having not myself owned my own kayak, I did a lot of research for the article. I interviewed a lot of people. I got some pictures from Hobie and some other folks, and used it. And basically, it is an exercise of minimalism in a way, right? The essentials, but also making the essentials work for your particular thing. And that's what Yak Attack does so well. But the other thing is that it is an exercise in compact, but also, like with the Bonafide kayak, you have a dry storage box, in the middle. You could even do electronics on, put a battery in, or whatever, and do your transducer and everything like that. I just, the innovations just amaze me. I mean, that's the thing that's blown me away.
They keep growing. I mean, as fishermen are getting out there, the sport's getting more competitive. More consumers are out there that have the product. You have these people coming up, and with the use of the web and social media, people are voicing their opinions on there.
Right.
And some of these companies are so in tune with their customers and their dealers. They listen to them, and they make these innovations, and they make these changes. So your fishing kayaks now, Bonafide is a great example of that. It is being designed by anglers, right. Not kayakers that are making a kayak that could be used for fishing like they used to be.
Fishermen that are using a kayak for fishing.
Absolutely. So they're thinking everything through.
That way,
You're thinking, I have to take all this gear. I need somewhere to be able to put a cooler with my food while I'm out there. I need somewhere safe for my electronics. I need somewhere safe to keep my phone. While I'm on the road traveling, I need somewhere for my rod storage and stuff. So you have, you have these companies are able, you can open the hatch from the opposite direction and put an entire rod and reel set inside there so it's safe and secure. When you're driving down the road, what your normal person walking by is not going to have a clue. There may be a couple $1,000s worth of gear inside your kayak.
Exactly.
So they allow you to make those changes. When they first started making kayaks for fishing, they were making a recreational kayak, and like, oh, you can put a rod holder on here. Now it is a fishing kayak. But now they're built from scratch by the angler, for the angler, with some amazing people that have been in the industry for a very long time to accommodate being able to get, like the Bonafide has the catamaran style hull on it. Yep. So you have something that is super, super stable, but is also very efficient in paddling and covering distance, so you're not wearing yourself out the whole time while you're out there. And then it has all the creature comforts, places to put your paddle. Right. Even the rubber slip on the front that you can lay your rod on and keep your tips from sliding off or something like that. But then once you have a fish on, you can grab your paddle blade and throw it in there real quick so it's hands-free. So little things like that over the years have really what's allowed a lot of people to be more comfortable in using kayaks and going out and fishing.
Oh, that's fantastic. The other thing I wanted to talk about before we end the show is you're really big, and you actually demonstrated this in person, which I was really honored that you take the time in this awful weather that we had this week to take a one of the things we talked about at the ICAST podcast that Chester and I did together was inflatable paddle boards. And inflatable SUPs, I guess, is another way. Is it called SUPs in the fishing world?
Yeah. A lot of times especially if you're in people that are familiar with the term.
With that term.
It's like if you're in the medical field, you don't go around saying CPDs and all these kind of terms. But once you're in people that are in the know, you just instead of saying stand up paddleboard all the time, it's
say SUP for short. Okay.
So cool. For sure. The inflatables have come a long way just in the last 3 or 4 years. The amount of pressure they can hold, you can literally, the paddleboards we went out with this weekend, we could put them across a pickup bed and I'd stand up on top of it and it's not going to flex or bend or anything like that. when
That's
you see
just amazing. I got on one, not in the water, but I got on one, and I'm like, this thing is as solid as a rock. It does not feel inflatable. When I initially thought about it, I thought about the raft I had when I was 12 years old. That was just this piece of crap Chinese,
it rolled with the waves.
Rolled with the waves and everything. It had no direction, no tracking, as you like to say, and that kind of stuff to it. And there's just no gliding through the water. It was just awkward, and it was cheap plastic, and you got a hole and a hook in there, and these things are built like a Sherman tank, man.
They are. They're very efficient. One of the biggest things in the paddleboard industry that has allowed them to really change is a down stitching technique. So they actually have a fabric inside from the top to the bottom now that are threads by the thousands just running up and down.
To make it even more sturdy, durable.
It makes it more sturdy. What it really does is allow you to hold significantly more pressure in the same material. Used to, you put too much pressure in a board, it would bubble up. Now, because of the down stitching on there, this allows you to put, the paddleboards that were holding 10 psi a few years ago are now holding 15 to 18 psi. Yes. And these are rigid. You can put larger anglers on them. You can put multiple people on an inflatable paddleboard. You can put your gear. And then Boat's done a great job with the Rackham inflatable that I used this week. They've got a rail all the way down the side.
Yep. Saw that.
I had the redfish I caught. He tried jumping off while I was trying to take a picture of him. He hit that rail multiple times and never went over.
That's good.
So I got to use that. They've got multiple tie downs to be able to put coolers on there, so you can use a seat. Most people think when you're on a paddleboard that you're really limited. You stand up.
Right.
But you actually have a lot of versatility. You can stand up, you can sit down, you can kneel, you can lay down. During the summertime when it's really hot, I love to lazy fish on my paddleboard. I will literally sit down, put my legs into the water, sit on the side of the paddleboard, and just sit there and fish, and it's just really comfortable.
That is really cool. And kind of the outdoor lifestyle thing that I talk about on the show all the time is just kind of chilling out. And with
you're just out there hanging out. I'm not being competitive or anything, so you're just out there having a good time and enjoying it, making a great experience for yourself. And the board companies, just like the Kayaks, are being very accommodating to the angler.
Yeah.
They have really cool aesthetics now. That brand new camo on that Rackham is sexy. Absolutely.
It is. Beautiful. It's like a digitized kind of camo. It's kind of got that really cool, and then
really cool. You've got rod holder mounts on there. You've got multiple options. I had the Power Pull micro anchor on it. That mount comes stock on there.
Oh, wow.
So I literally, all I had to do is get a couple of stainless steel 1/4-20 screws, and now I have an electronic anchoring system out there.
Huh.
And so they're easy to paddle. And the nice thing is a lot of people don't have a place to store these.
Right.
Especially when you're in a lot of more heavily populated areas. When I was in Florida, everybody has issues with condos and stuff like that. They have nowhere to store these. They don't have trailers to put this stuff on.
Or garages to put the trailers in or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And so being able to have an inflatable, this thing literally fits into a large backpack. So you can walk around with it. For adventurers like me, you throw it in your trunk, the back seat of your pickup truck, you have it with you all the time. Yeah. I drive by so many new bodies of water. I'm like, I wonder if there's any fish in there. I wonder, that'd be great. And now you have this inflatable paddleboard. You already have it with you.
Right.
You inflate it with an electric pump real fast off your cigarette lighter in the truck, and you go and you jump on the water and you go paddle for 30 minutes.
I love it. That's great.
So
I love it.
Just really allows you to be outdoors more and have more opportunities to really get out there and enjoy God's creation and everything that we have out there to explore with ease. They're affordable products, they're lightweight products, they're not super heavy, they're not super bulky. Last time I went to Outdoor Retailer, we picked up a couple of inflatable paddleboards from one of the manufacturers, drove up to the Green River with our fly rods, and we were paddling down Class 3 rapids, fly fishing off inflatable paddleboards. Then we're driving back to the airport, and we find a mountain range and that has little bitty streams in it, and we go up there, go do some brook trout fishing, and then we check in our paddleboard at the airport as a normal check-in bag and go home. Mm-hmm. You can't do that with a full-size kayak or paddleboard or anything
10-footer
like that.
or 12-footer is not going to fit in your backpack. So, but and I'm really thinking about investing in one of those, the inflatable, because I don't have a lot of room in my house. There are places to store kayaks and that kind of stuff, and it's just one of those things where I'm like, that, and also like BOTE, the company that makes some of the better inflatable I mean, they're all good, but I mean, they're the ones that y'all featured here. They also have the Rover, which is the big engine power, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, the outboard powered paddleboard.
Yep.
And the cool thing, I saw a video, I think it was Palm Beach Pete or one of these guys. He was basically on YouTube. There were two guys on the paddleboard just to do a test drive of it. Mm-hmm. There were two guys on the paddleboard holding on to the little stand up thing, and one was driving and one was riding on the front of it. And I was just like, you got to be kidding me! I mean, it was just like, wow. It probably wasn't the safest thing to do, but that's how they were. But it's just crazy. I mean, it's amazing. And there's a nice wood grain floor. There's a nice, there's rails. It's just everything you could ever want out of a flat board.
Yeah, aesthetically appealing.
Oh, very aesthetically.
Just over 100 pounds. Has a 500-pound capacity. Palm Beach Pete's actually a really good friend of mine.
Oh, good. I didn't know. I forgot to ask you about Palm Beach Pete because I follow him on YouTube. So I just ran into him looking at kayaks one day. Now I've got you as a wealth of knowledge on kayaks I can ask. But Palm Beach Pete was my guy there for a while.
Yeah, I love Pete. He's a great guy and he loves growing the sport. And we have fun playing and testing out new product
cool.
again and
I've
stuff
seen
like that.
Videos,
But yeah, the Rover's a very interesting machine and craft that's come out. It got a lot of attention whenever it first came out. It won Best of Show at ICAST for 2017.
I saw that when it came out. It was crazy.
Being able to take a little craft and put a 6 horsepower outboard and get up on plane.
Yeah, for sure. On
and
plane,
then you put 1 or 2 people out on there. I take my dog, I put the cooler on there and just buzz around. And it is heavy, it's bulky. But if you're dedicated and want to go do that stuff and you don't have room for a trailer, or a lot of places don't allow trailers in these places we like to go, you could car top that thing, put the motor in the back seat, throw your accessories in the back, and take it wherever you want. So it keeps going with the kayak and paddleboards just being more effective in getting people out there on the water and being efficient and allowing more people to cover more ground and handle different aspects of the sport. So being able to have the rod holders and the stakeout poles. That thing has mounts for 2 power pole micro anchors.
Oh, 2. Wow.
2 of them. So, I mean, imagine going out on the water with your bass boat, and there's guys in this little one-person vessel with a 6 horsepower outboard up on plane with 2 power poles.
2 power poles in the air.
The separation of kayaks and boats keeps getting closer and closer.
That's great.
In some aspects, especially now, Used to, they started by making all these crafts just for kayakers that like to fish. I was one of that target audience, but now they're becoming so innovative with those all this product and new crafts and everything like that. They're targeting these boat guys.
Yeah.
So
how about something you don't need a whole team to launch? How about something you can just throw in your pickup and throw on top of your roof rack and go?
And how much more time efficient is it too?
Oh, for sure.
You're not spending 2 hours prepping, 2 hours afterwards cleaning, and all this kind of stuff. It makes it a lot more user friendly. And you look at this stuff and you're like, I got 2 hours to fish tonight.
Yeah, that's it.
You're not gonna go out and be like, okay, we'll get the boat out, we'll set it up and all that stuff. You're fishing for what, 15 minutes?
Right.
You throw a inflatable paddleboard, the Rover, a kayak or something in the water, you're out there and you're on the water in 15 minutes and you're out there fishing for an hour and a half. And
it's a lot more efficient.
You talk about like kids and stuff, because these fishing kayaks have such larger capacities. it allows a lot of families to take their sons and their daughters,
Yeah.
and even I know multiple of my customers in the past that have their wives that sit in the back cockpit of the kayak. They put a little stadium seat or
Yeah, sure.
a little chair or something,
talking
some
about
padding
last
back
night,
there,
yeah.
and then they're able to take their kids or the family out on a single paddle craft instead of owning multiple, and just go out there and just enjoy stuff and
Right.
spend some time together and be out on the water and get away from social media and gaming and all that kind of
Right.
stuff and get out on
Just
the water.
enjoy the outdoors. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm all about on the show is lifestyle. You know, it's lifestyle. It's about making things accessible, affordable, and all that other stuff for sure. So, thank you so much for. Oh, one last question: do you ever caught a carp in a kayak? I did an article on that this year.
Carp in a kayak, absolutely carp. I've caught drum on there. I really love game fish, and I consider carp a game fish. I've always grown up in Oklahoma. My whole family was all about catfish.
Right.
And we'd spend all night long out on the lake fishing for catfish, and I was praying that a carp would come by and pick up my bait. I would rather catch a carp than a catfish
Right.
because I've always enjoyed the fight.
Yeah, and that's my point. When I wrote about carp in a kayak, I always say they play the game to win, and they fight you like they owe you, like you owe them money. I mean, that's the best way I look at it. It's kind of like the Cape Buffalo in Africa. He looks at you like he owes you, like you owe him money. It comes from an outdoor writer a long time ago in a book, and that's just kind of where I borrow that from. But I will argue, and I've said this before on the show, I will argue that a striper is not the hardest fighting freshwater fish. You get a big carp, and he's mad, and he's playing the game to win, I think he'll pull the rod out of your hands compared to a striper. I fought striper, okay? I'm not saying that they're not a fish to be reckoned with, but I think a carp's even harder fighting. What do you think?
I would agree with that. I know some guys that target carp specifically,
Yep, I
setting
do
state
too.
records and stuff like that. And man, the fights, one of the coolest experiences when you're in a kayak is catching a fish large enough to pull you around. We call it a sleigh ride.
Sleigh ride, I love it. That's great.
So getting a large carp on there, they're pulling you
ride.
all over the place. They're a lot of fun.
Dictated by the fish. I love it. That's a great analogy, man. That's perfect. That's funny.
But yeah, they're as a game fighting fish. A lot of people think they're trash fish, and I bow fish for them off my paddleboards
Sure, I do
and
too,
stuff.
yeah.
But being able to hook up with one of those, I never get upset if I hook up with a carp.
No, they fight.
I'm
hard.
always, I think I have some epic battle with a bass until it gets up, and then I'm like, that explains it. That's
Yeah.
just a normal carp.
That's a hard-hitting fish, though. That was my point there. So you've been on with me for a while. I don't want to take any more of your time. I really appreciate you coming on the show with me, man.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. I love enjoying the sport. I love finding other people that really like getting out there and getting other people in the community and in the public to go out and try these new things and get out there, get out of their houses and get on the water and
Sure.
enjoy what life's really, truly about.
So how can people find you, or do you want people to find you, or do you our audience to connect with you, or what do you think? I'll put your info in the show notes.
Absolutely. You can find me on Facebook, and you can also find me on Instagram as the Kayak Doctor.
Oh gosh, you have branded yourself as that. You're not joking. That's great. The Kayak Doctor.
So
is that Kayak DR or Kayak Doctor?
The full spelled out, the Kayak Doctor.
I'm gonna
on
follow
there.
you. That's great.
So I have I've done customizations with kayaks and stuff on there, but I'm on there constantly posting fishing trips and stuff like that. The redfish we caught last night.
Yeah.
I got that posted up on there. Make everybody back in Oklahoma and all these cold places I just came from very jealous. They're stuck in their houses or out there fishing for a little 10, 11-inch bass, and
Right.
we're down here just slaying the redfish.
Slaying the redfish. And we didn't slay them all that good this week, but I mean, we did pretty good yesterday afternoon at least. So.
You find that one good hole.
Yeah, that one hole, and you just stay on it, man. You power pull down and you stay on it. And the thing is, it was one of those things where I wasn't even popping the cork. I was just letting it. I was just watching that bobber, watching that float on the popping cork, the cork. And when that thing would go down, I was just like, "It's on, baby." I mean, it was. But
They were so finicky. They're
yeah,
like
they were
counting to
finicky,
5
yeah.
every
It's
single
like you
time.
throwing finesse shrimp out there and stuff. So anyway, but no, it was great. I just really appreciate it, and thank you for on behalf of Texas Fishing Game Magazine for hosting us this week in this event. And I know you're with Frontier Marketing, Sales and Marketing, and you guys do a lot of the retail side, but we really appreciate you guys. So.
Not a problem. Appreciate you coming down here and spending some time.
All right, thanks again. And there he goes, Mr. Ryan Jones. You can find him. I'll put a couple of ways you can connect with him on social media, especially Facebook. He's just got a lot of great content out there. Really cool guy. Next up is Dave Brown from Okuma. He is one of their senior marketing guys, and really had a good time to sit down with him for a little while and chew the fat and just talk about fishing and some of the Okuma product line that they have here. And here we go. Joining me on the podcast, Mr. Dave Brown.
Hi there, how you doing?
Better than I deserve is my usual answer to that. So,
Exactly.
That's a statement of grace. But yeah, I wanted to have you on to kind of talk really briefly about, or as long as you want to talk about Okuma. You represent Okuma, you work for them, and you have a lot of experience with all types of fishing. And then obviously Okuma makes spinning, bait casting, as well as big game rods and reels and all that kind of stuff.
That's correct. Yeah, I've been with Okuma for 12 years. We're based in Southern California, so at home we do a lot of saltwater fishing, West Coast saltwater fishing anyway.
Right.
So we do a lot of tuna and yellowtail out there on the West Coast, so some big hard fighting fish. In fact, if you're out there right now, you have a legitimate shot at a 200-pound bluefin anytime you go out, even on the short trips.
Wow.
But as far as Okuma, I'm like I said, I've been there for 12 years. I'm one of the marketing managers, and I travel the country, do a lot of fishing, see a lot of different fishing styles and freshwater, saltwater, pretty much everywhere.
What's your favorite place to fish?
I love Venice, Louisiana. Venice is awesome.
It doesn't get much better as far as the action here.
It's a dream place to go. This week it was a little tough.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a Debbie Downer with the weather. But
actually, I'm sitting here as we're talking. I'm staring out the window and actually seeing some blue sky and sunshine. That's the first time this week. It's been chilly.
It's been chilly. It's been overcast. It's been wet. It's been cold.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's just been crazy. But I've said this often about the outdoor lifestyle is I brought I know had some foul weather gear here from Grundon's, but I brought all of my foul weather gear from home. And this is one of those trips, Dave, where I used every stitch of my foul weather gear on the water.
That's for sure.
Every bit of it, because it was ridiculously cold and wet. And one of the days, the first day, Tuesday, we went out, saw that while there was it's like white caps all over the place. Turned around and came back. And I was like, "Ooh, that was good." But the next day we went out. Yesterday we went out and did a lot better. But I needed every stitch of that. It's just about having the right gear, for your needs, because you never know what kind of fishing it's going to be.
Having the right gear at the right time. In fact, foul weather gear for us in Southern California is whether I wear the tank top or the T-shirt. So luckily I brought some T-shirts. But yeah, all that Grundon's gear came in gear. Those new boots are awesome.
Yeah, those new boots from Grundon's. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. And yeah, so basically, give us a rundown of the models that are new or that you want to feature, that kind of stuff. You gave us a rundown together as media the other night, and I'd just like to kind of cover the bases real quick to educate people about what you've got.
Yeah, certainly. Down in Venice here, you got so many varieties of fishing. You can go out to the rigs, you can go out chase tuna, do a lot of this inshore redfish stuff. So what we did this whole time was a lot of red fishing, a lot of spinning gear, some bait cast stuff. What I brought along was our Shadow Stalker series of rods. Those are a nice inshore series, spinning and bait cast. Nice parabolic feel to it. We did a lot of pop and cork, and those were set up nicely. And at $100 rod, they're awesome for what we were doing. And I paired those up with our Azores reel, which is an all-aluminum reel, inshore, corrosion-resistant. Everything's bathed in Corrosion X, which makes it awesome for that brackish water and even the offshore water. Those are great for what we were doing. We got a couple bowls mixed in, but most of that fish were that fun-size stuff.
The fun size
fish.
That's kind of like the fun size candy bars
exactly.
that we were eating. Yeah,
exactly. They were the fun size.
The fun size. Well, eater size, I guess, is the best.
Eater size, yeah, exactly.
Eater size for sure. So.
And that other stuff we were doing, we didn't have a lot of trout around, but I brought some of our new Ricky Red rods, which those were fantastic little rods for what we were doing out here.
Those are sponsored by.
So Ricky Red is from.
Y'all sponsor him.
Exactly. Yeah, Rick Murphy. He's down in Florida.
Sure.
He's got the Texas Insider Fishing Report as well. But he designed those rods from top to bottom, 14 models, bait cast and spinning, and it's made for this market. They're hot. They're Gulf Series rods.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
They're awesome.
And they're red, so they're
red. They stand out. You can see every little tip movement if you get a little bite on there. We match those up with our Epixer XT spinning reels, which is a graphite reel, nice and light. We did a little 30 size. I think they had them spooled up with 30-pound braid, and they were awesome.
Yeah, it's just fantastic. The the action. It's smooth. I mean, I always joke around my hunting gear is in perfect shape. My fishing gear looks like it has just been beat to hell.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where your treasure's where your heart is. If you get a good rod and reel, it should last you for a long time and it should be work for you. And you guys make a lot of different reels and rods that are for different styles of fishing, whether you're going offshore for big game or whether you're inshore for the redfish and stuff. But the balance of your rods and reels, the lightweight aluminum, the smoothness and everything like that of the reel it was just incredible. I was very impressed.
We pride ourselves on gearing. We came from a CNC background way back 25 years ago when they started coming into the United States here. It's actually a Taiwanese company, and we do a lot of gearing for a lot of different companies, which a lot of people don't know. But all of our big machined aluminum reels, like our Makaira offshore reels, they've been the pride of the West Coast. If you jump on any big sport boat right now, you're going to find a full range of Makairas whacking giant fish. It's pretty fun time to be there.
And those are massive reels, man. Those are the big what do you call the like baitcast style?
Big conventional
reels, yeah. And for your big game, that's what you really want to use if you're going off of a sport fishing yacht or anything like that.
Yeah, we use something called a helical cut gearing, which is a real even mesh, so you don't have to have any kind of clicking when you retrieve. So you're not hiding anything. It's a silent retrieve on those things.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that.
But we make them all the way from a little 10 size, which is nice and compact, about your fist size, all the way up to a 130, which the guys up in Prince Edward Island are catching those 1,000-pound bluefin off of. It's crazy. It's crazy.
So, if you watch Wicked Tuna or Deadliest Catch or any of that stuff, I mean, the main thing that I take away from those shows is you have to have gear that works under the severe conditions, but at the same time, gear that performs well, no matter if it's a hard hitter or a midget.
That's exactly it. Like on the West Coast, we have that long range market, which you'll see those guys that are doing those 16-day trips, and they're down deep in Mexico.
16 days.
16 days, yeah, and they're chasing giant yellowfin tuna. And these sport boats, they're using Okuma gear now as most of their rental gear. And at the end of the season, they're just bringing us back milk crates of reels and just saying, hey, check these out, go through them. So we'll go through and we'll clean up the drag, give them nice fresh drags for the season.
Right.
There's boat rash all over these things, and they've been scratched up because they're rental gear. But inside, it's just like opening up right out of the box. Clean,
cool, real
smooth.
Because it's sealed. And
it's all sealed and tight, and these boats are switching over, and they're digging them.
The one thing that I make a big deal about in the outdoors is buying something once for durability and not having to buy it 3 years later or 2 years later or whatever. A good rod and reel should last you, the course of a long time,
For sure, yeah. And of course that's how you maintain it and take care of it.
Sure,
if you're taking a graphite reel and you're out saltwater fishing for big redfish, just take that thing off and rinse it off. You don't have to open it up. You don't have to repack it with grease. You don't have to do anything else to it, but just give it a nice light rinse. Don't hit it with WD-40, which is going to eat all the grease out of that thing.
Yeah, that's the bad thing.
Yeah, just keep it clean. You don't even have to use soapy water, but a lot of guys like to dip it real quick or just
fresh
rinse
water,
it off.
Obviously.
That's it. Yeah, just fresh water. Keep it clean, and that thing should last you quite a while.
No, that's good to know. And I mean, I always try to say, to buy the best gear you can afford when it comes to some of this stuff. But you guys have some great price points across the board, and you have reels that match your rods and rods that match your reels. But the spinning reels, I was really impressed with, not just how smooth they are and everything like that, but just the fit and finish of them overall, which is something I talk about when I ride a lot, is the way that the gearing ratio and everything like that is just fantastic.
It's we got to pack a lot of technology into those little reels. Like if you're looking at our Inspira, the ISX reels that we had out here the other day, they feature a few different key technological points there, and you got like the torsion control armor, which is it's a little forked piece that goes all the way around the body. So what that does is that prevents any kind of torsion within the reel, so you're not going to get any twisting. All of those it's pretty awesome. They're all injected with our C40X process, which is a long strain graphite fiber, so it's 50% stronger and 25% lighter than our regular graphite process. And then on a rotor, we use our cyclonic flow rotor. What that does is if you look at that design, it's a real sleek design on the rotor, but as you turn the reel, it actually sucks the water out of the spool. So if you're fishing, like we were this whole week fishing in the rain, everything gets wet and damp, and every time you spin that reel, you're actually sucking the moisture out of there. Water come whipping out.
That's brilliant, man.
It's really awesome.
That makes a lot of sense for like harsh, foul weather conditions.
Yeah, for sure.
To suck that water out of there and keep things dry and clean.
And those coastal markets, out here we're doing a lot of kayaking, paddleboarding as well. We do it on the West Coast, so you're if you're paddling, you're 4 or 5 inches off of the water, and that reel's getting moist all day. But every time you spin that, you're sucking the moisture out. It's great.
Golly, that's great. So, anything else you'd like to add? I'm going to let you, you go from there.
We're excited to be down here. I mean, this is just the whole Gulf market. We've been up and down and around. Florida's a key market for us. Louisiana, Texas.
Right, you're moving more into, what did you call it, the TELO states?
The TELO states.
TELO
right?
states.
Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma.
All right, folks, I've never heard TELO being called before, but that's a 4-state, region, I guess.
Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma.
That y'all are moving back into with the passion. So.
That's it. Yeah, we love it down here. We do a lot of the bass tournaments all through eastern Texas into Louisiana. But getting down here along the coast, like we said, Venice is our passion. This is tough fishing. We do a lot of our product testing down here with a lot of the boats, and it's fun. I'm excited to be here.
That's great. And so you're off the coast of California?
Correct.
Okay, good deal. That's where you live. And what kind of fish do y'all mainly go after there?
We've got everything. So if you're on the freshwater side, you're usually chasing largemouth bass.
Right.
On the West Coast, we're known for throwing giant swim baits, the Huddlestons, the big depths, slide swimmers. We're throwing up to 1 pound baits for these big largemouth bass. You got a legitimate shot at a 10-pounder every time you head out.
Golly.
We've got some striped bass lakes as well, where you're going to go throw some of those big topwater baits. And then you get into the saltwater. You have everything from inshore bass fishing, which is our spotted bay bass, calico bass. You run out to the islands. You can do yellowtail, bluefin, yellowfin tuna. It's a pretty magical place.
Oh, that's great. So I just like to see how the rest of the world fishes, some of the time. So there's a lot of diversity we have in Texas and obviously here in Louisiana. And, it's just one of those things that I like to explore and at least lighten and educate people with what else is out there. But I can't say it enough. Having good gear is important, and having gear that's going to, like for instance, when I'm catching, these weren't rat reds, but these were smaller, eater-sized redfish. But those things play the game to win when it comes to fighting you. And I was taking the drag out. The drag wasn't too loose. It wasn't too. It was a smooth transition. I was able to land those fish really easily, and I thought your gear was great.
Yeah, once you get dialed in, you're set there.
No, that's good. That's really good. Well, anything else to add, sir?
Nothing I could think of. If you guys are interested in some Okuma, come check out the website.
Yes, I was going to get your contact information.
Yeah, for sure. www.okumafishingusa.com, and that's got all the products, rods, reels, clothing, bags. We got all kinds of fun stuff over there.
It's fun to say the word Okuma, too. It's just, sorry. But any way to connect with you on social? You on any of the platforms at all?
I am. You can actually go to daviesworld.com. That's my personal website. I got on my
cool.
blog. I got videos. I got the YouTube page. Of course, for Okuma as well, head out to Okuma Fishing. You'll see all of our links on there as well on our website, and that's got the Instagram, the Twitter. We got it all. We're all out there.
Daviesworld.com.
Daviesworld.com.
Should I have called you Davey when we sat down here? No.
Depends where you're at in the world.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So it's kind of like DustinsProjects.com, which is my website.
Sure,
it's kind of the hub of all that you do in the
Exactly.
outdoors, including what you do for the for the company. So anyway, that's great. Well, thanks so much for joining us.
Of course, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, and there he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dave Brown. Awesome guest on the podcast. Love having all these guys. And really, the weather was such, I don't want to say foul, but it was definitely not pretty outside at this event. We really had time to sit around the round table and do these podcasts. And that's what I love about this show is it's kind of free form. It's kind of loose and wild and flies close to the ground and does so many things to just basically educate you and just help you be a better outdoorsman and outdoors woman. It's really what I'm about in these podcasts, is really educating you and just helping you see some of the things that I see and benefit from some of the things that I benefit from as an outdoor writer and videographer and speaker, blogger, podcaster, and all those other things that I do in the industry, personally and professionally with Texas Fish and Game. I really just want you to see things that I see and use things that I use and things that have helped make me successful in the outdoor field. That's why they call me the outdoor success guy, I guess. But it's just about helping you be a better outdoorsman with some of the products and services that these companies offer, and that's what I really try to do on this show. So I hope you guys take notice of that and will use these things to help you be a better angler. And it doesn't really matter, especially with fishing. I wanted to definitely say this before the show was out. Hunting is getting to be ridiculously expensive in a lot of places, especially here in Texas. And the one thing about fishing is that, it's a lot more accessible. It's a lot easier. And I know some of you guys listening to this show don't hunt and you only fish just because it's cost prohibitive to do both. Or like my dad said back when I was a young child, he would always say, well, he took up bass fishing hardcore on the circuits and stuff like that he used to run, the McDonald's circuits, the Home Depot circuits, all the different circuits, tournament circuits that were going on back in the day in the local area of South Central Texas. He said I could fish all year. And Texas is mild enough climate that I could fish all year. I could only hunt 4 months of the year. And of course, you can go invest in a boat and spend a lot of money on that and electronics and all the different crafts and upgrades and everything that you can make to your boating gear and that kind of stuff. But really, fishing's simple. And, fishing's affordable. It's accessible to most people. It's available to most people anywhere in the world, really, anywhere in the nation, our nation for sure, the United States, because you can find a lake nearby a lot of times, unless you're in the middle of the desert. But even there, I mean, you've got some opportunities to go fishing in rivers and creeks and ponds and that kind of stuff. And, that's what I'm all about with this podcast. And you guys know this if you listen to the show for any length of time. I'm about making the outdoors accessible and making you successful in the outdoors and trying to go forth with the best knowledge and the best tools, the best tackle, the best equipment. And the nice thing about what we have now, and I know I've said this on the show a bunch, it's all good. It's all good. It's not. There's a lot of crap has been weeded out over the years, if you'll excuse my language. A lot of the garbage is just gone. And so what's left are companies that are competing for your dollar. They're competing for your business. And they're going to come up with a higher quality product. They're going to come up with a better, more efficient and effective way for you to get out on the water at a lower price because of competition. And that's a beautiful thing about what goes on in the outdoor industry, even though it's fierce and there's a lot of different people that are trying to be playing this space. It really is something that I take notice of, that I think is interesting, because we're in the golden age of fishing. We're in the golden age of angling. We're in the golden age of boating, personal boating, like we talked about on this show. I mean, incredible. The one thing that Ryan and I did not talk about is round boats. There's two companies that come to mind for that. One of them has been a sponsor at fishgame.com. That's Roundabout Watercraft. They make these circular boats that you can just roll onto the water, and they're very, very stable. And the other one's running in our magazine before a couple of times, Ultra Skiff. They're based right here in Texas, and I think that Roundabout's based in Florida. And both I think they're both fierce competitors with each other, but I mean, both have fantastic personal watercraft options that are round, that aren't your traditional kayak, and aren't your traditional sup board or paddle board, or whatever the case may be. They are specifically designed to basically, do what you need to do in the outdoors to get out there and get on the water, and they glide pretty well across the water. You may think, how does a circular boat do very well aerodynamically on the water? You'd be impressed. I've seen one of these in action up close and in person. So anyway, just wanted to mention those two companies as other personal watercraft options before I ended this show. And thank you guys so much. If you've not done so already, and I know some of you guys, this is your first time listening to the podcast, and if you can get past this crazy guy on a microphone that talks a million miles an hour, I love you guys all. I really do. The show is for you. So if you've not done so already, please subscribe to the podcast. You get a new show every 2 weeks. I've already got an editorial calendar planned out for the year for the most part. I've got a little bit of deviation probably off of that Chester put together, but I really just excited about the year, man. This is a new year. This is all kinds of new content coming your way, and new guests on the show too is my plan. And also, I just wanted to bring to your attention our newsletter, which comes out 3 times a week. Tactical and Practical Tuesday, Wildlife Wednesday, and the Thursday Texas State of the Outdoor Nation newsletter. All 3 of those are free. They come every single week. We took one little break around Christmas week. That's why we didn't have a new podcast for that week. And then we're back at it with the new year. So new content, fresh stuff, and those newsletters, most of the stories all end up at fishgame.com, which is our website and blog. You can go check that out. You can sign up for the newsletter at fishgame.com. You can also search for all of my articles, all of Chester's articles, all of the articles that are written by any of the outdoor writers that are on fishgame.com. Just under the blog section, and also just by the search bar. It's on the right hand side, or scroll all the way down to the bottom if you're on mobile, or right hand side if you're on desktop. And really just great stuff. I mean, just good content. I've written a lot of stuff. I'm writing a lot of stuff now as I'm recording this. new products that I've reviewed on my YouTube channel to kind of bring you some, and with links so you can go buy the stuff if you want to. Just some new ideas and products and stuff that I've been testing out and playing with and having a lot of fun with, hunting and fishing and camping and survival tools and tactical stuff and all kinds of fun stuff like that. So anyway, stay tuned to fishgame.com for that. Check out the newsletters for some of my stories, and Chester puts together a great newsletter every 3 times a week. And really appreciate you guys watching, reading, and listening. Have an awesome day in the outdoors. We'll see you next time.